Hi, welcome along to Transfer Daily, the show that takes a look at all the players linked with a January transfer move to Arsenal today. And what I thought we'd do today is take a look at the great defensive midfielder debate. It seems that this is the main priority for Arsenal this window. We need a defensive midfielder. Not only are the ones that we got not good enough, we've also our best one, which is Mikel Arteta, is also injured and has been injured for most of the season. Flamini is knocking on a bit, and Coquelin, who's come in and done pretty well over the past couple of games, but he still is a novice there, and we still haven't seen him come up against the real top team so that we could judge him to see if he is the player that is the answer. But one thing for sure is we need a defensive midfielder. Now, let's take a look at some of the players that we've been linked with. One of the biggest ones has been Moussa Sissoko. Plays at the moment for Newcastle United. The Newcastle fans love him. He's a very dynamic defensive midfielder. Maybe not purely defensive midfielder because he's so good at getting forward and going on runs, dribbling. His passing range is pretty good, and he can also be decent in the tackle. Arsenal apparently put a bid of about £9 million in for him, which was rejected. But, you know, it has been said that Arsenal are very interested in Sissoko. Now, there's also another catch to this with the fact that there are rumours going around today that PSG would like to swap Yohan Cabaye, who hasn't had a very good time since he's moved from Newcastle to PSG. Well, the rumours are is that they would like to swap him for Moussa Sissoko, which, if that is true, that really would scupper Arsenal's hopes of bringing in Sissoko, although it is rumoured that Sissoko would love to come to Arsenal. But that is the rumour today that there's a big deal on the table from PSG saying that to Newcastle, you can have Cabaye back, we'll take Sissoko the other way. And that would appeal to Newcastle because, of course, Yohan Cabaye was an absolutely massive player for Newcastle, was a real hero up there, and that might appeal to them a lot. So the Sissoko one may be difficult to pull off, as maybe the next player that has been linked with a move to Arsenal, and that is Morgan Schneiderlin. Now, he's been brilliant so far this season. If you look at all the stats for tackling and passing, he's right at the top of all of those stats at the moment. He's imposing, French international, 25 years of age. Everything just seems to be perfect about him for Arsenal. We all know what we need, and he really, really seems to fit the bill. The only sticking point, of course, on this player is, of course, number one, he's going to be very, very expensive because he's playing for Southampton at the moment, and Southampton are doing very, very well. Above us, remember, beat us, remember. So they're not going to be willing to sell him at all. And as a matter of fact, the manager, Ronald Koeman, has already come out and said, listen, he's not for sale. Not that that always means something, but that's what he's come out and said. The other thing is as well, Arsenal not the only club after Schneiderlin. Manchester United are also very, very interested in bringing him into the midfield. I think United's main target is Kevin Strootman. That is a player that they'd really like to get in that position. But if they can't, Schneiderlin would fit the bill. So we've faced serious competition from Manchester United if we're trying to bring Schneiderlin in. And also, as I said, there is that factor is, are Southampton going to be willing to sell him to us, strengthening us and dropping their chances of getting into the Champions League, which they're deadly serious about this year. So, but he would be perfect for Arsenal. He's very, very similar to Matic at Chelsea, and we've seen the impact that Matic has had at Chelsea. So if Arsenal are serious about bringing in an upgrade in the defensive midfielder position, this guy could definitely fit the bill. But it's how serious are Arsenal. There's also as well his teammate Victor Wanyama, who again, he was very, very impressive against us a few days ago. But again, would Southampton be willing to sell? They paid about, I think, about 50 million for him, and they'd want a lot of money for him to if they were going to move him out. Obviously, these players would love to come to Arsenal, but would Southampton be willing to sell these players in January? Maybe in the summer, but in January, it seems unlikely, but not impossible if Arsenal was to make a big bid. Next player that is a player that this one could happen if Arsenal are willing to shell out the money, and that's William Carvalho, plays for Sporting Lisbon. Listen, we all know about this guy. He seems to have been linked with Arsenal forever. You know, the links are always there. Are Arsenal going to make this deal happen? I mean, he's young, he's big, he's strong, he can pass, he can tackle, he's dynamic. He is definitely one of the future stars in the defensive midfielder position. The rumours are back on that Arsenal are in for him. There's been rumours that Arsenal have made inquiries about, you know, putting in a bid. Inquiries are one thing. Will it happen? Arsenal need a defensive midfielder, and they really need to make one of these deals, to me, happen this January if they're going to be looking to have a serious running at the end of the season. The only thing about Carvalho, I think he's cup-tied in the Champions League, which is one of the competitions that we're still in, and we'll be able to fight on fronts. So he wouldn't be able to play in that, but he would definitely be a great addition. But does that mean the fact that he's cup-tied mean that Arsene Wenger may say, right, I'm going to wait until the summer before I explore looking at a player like him? The other player, and I haven't mentioned him yet this January transfer window. I mentioned him lots of times during the summer. I got loads of stick for it, by the way. And that's Sami Khedira. Not exactly a holding midfielder, but can adapt to play into that position. He has done it for Real Madrid. He's even played in defence before for Real Madrid. He can drop that back here. He's done it for Germany as well. Available on a free transfer in the summer. That means if you buy him now, he'd be very, very cheap. Arsenal were after him or were interested apparently with him in the summer. I don't know why they didn't go in and buy him. German international experience. Two problems. Number one, injuries. He had that bad injury that kept him, you know, almost kept him out of the World Cup. He also definitely looks like he would love to stay at Real Madrid. He loves Real Madrid. He'd love to stay there, but they still haven't renewed his contract, and he's still available. Sorry, one other sticking point with Khedira, of course, is the fact that Khedira is also being touted by Bayern Munich. Now, Bayern Munich very interested in bringing him back to Germany. Would love to get him there. Again, they would be playing him sort of as a defensive midfielder. And of course, Bayern Munich, a much better team than us right now. So Khedira might be hanging out, you know, for a deal like that to happen. So there are some targets there that definitely Arsenal could go after. Would definitely be upgrades on what we've got, but we're going to cost a lot of money. Is Arsene Wenger going to be prepared to push the boat out to bring in these type of players? That is what it's going to boil down to at the end of the day. Just before I go, I've got to tell you about one other player that's been linked with a move to Arsenal. He's a striker. We've been hearing a lot about this guy over the past week. Nothing concrete, but Arsene Wenger is said to be an admirer. This guy would love to come to Arsenal, love to go to a big club where he plays in the Champions League. He goes by the name of Paulo Dybala. He's 21 years of age. He plays for Palermo, Argentinian player. He's being compared at the moment to Sergio Aguero. They're calling him the new Aguero, and you know what happens. If you're a striker, you come out from Argentina, you're sort of that stature, you're going to get compared to Aguero or Messi or somebody called the new this or the new that. But he's been called the new Aguero. Lots and lots of clubs looking at him, including Arsenal. Arsenal are big admirers of him, and it's been rumoured that Arsenal are interested in bringing him in as a striker. Whether that would happen this transfer window, I don't know. And as well, the price that's been put on him. There's been rumours that the price is something like 40 million, 40 million euros. Which again is very, very expensive. A lot of money for Arsenal to spend in the transfer window, so I can't see that. But that's another player that has been linked. Also being looked at by Liverpool, Manchester City, and Borussia Dortmund very, very interested in him. So he's very, very highly sought after, but that is a player that Arsenal are looking at the moment. Let's take a look at a few of the comments from you guys coming in today. Porringham Dem says, knowing us, we're just going to sign Kim bloody Kallstrom. People can't get that out of their system. They still remember that. We haven't got a great history, really, of signing players in January. I mean, I think the season before that, it was Nacho Monreal. I think probably the biggest signing we made during the January transfer window is when we signed Andre Arshavin. But we don't seem to sign a lot of players in January. It's always normally like the odd player and not normally massive names. But listen, we need a defensive midfielder and maybe that might happen. Clayton Starling says, Schneiderlin wouldn't need much convincing to leave Southampton. Listen, he would love to probably leave Southampton, but it's whether Southampton are going to be willing to sell him. I think there's no doubt him, Sissoko, they would love to leave because they're going to come and play for a bigger club. They're going to be playing in the Champions League guaranteed. And, you know, that's every player's dream right now. You know, but it's whether the clubs are going to be willing to sell them. Ron Smith says, I reckon both Morgan Schneiderlin and Vinny, right, which he's obviously, he sounds like he's a Southampton fan, would want to go to Arsenal, to be honest, but are mental. He said, we'd be mental if we let them leave this window. So, yeah, he's definitely Southampton's in. He said, Sissoko is not a CDM, by the way, not a typical CDM, but definitely he is a player who could fill that role. They just need a dynamic player there in that midfield also who can also is also good in the tackle. Olivia Martin says Javi Martinez, he can play at the back and as a holding midfielder. He's young, very experienced. Comparson is very composed, also strong and wins the ball back well. He's one of the best defensive midfielders in the world. But as Samuel Lee also points out, Martinez is too injury prone. Well, he's had that bad injury that has sort of really, really knocked back his career. Rory Scrivener says, I would sign Carvalho, big 6'2". Not many would like to take him on. He can play as a centre-back as well. So not essential to sign a centre-back if you buy him, which that would appeal to Wenger. That's very true. And Arsenal FC editor says, we can't wait until the summer to sign a defensive midfielder. And that's definitely, I agree with him there. We need to get that defensive midfielder in right now. Listen, leave your comments below. Tell us who you think would be the perfect player to play in that defensive midfielder role. And also, who do you think Arsenal really need to bring in? What is the priorities for Arsenal this January transfer window? Looking forward to the game later on. It's a massive game for Arsenal, the FA Cup. We're defending the cup, remember. We are the cup holders. It's going to be interesting to see what team we put out. We saw from yesterday's FA Cup games that teams that put out some weakened sides yesterday really suffered. Newcastle were a big example of that. Played a very, very weakened team against Leicester and got knocked out of the cup. So I think we're going to have to be definitely careful with our team selection. But it does look like a lot of players will be rested, and Ospina will get his chances in goals. So that will be very interesting to see how he gets on. Thanks for watching Transfer Daily, and don't forget, we will be back tomorrow with more transfer news as regarding Arsenal.